Hi, lovelies. Have you ever heard a story so painful, so bitter that even the stones on the ground will weep? Today, I will tell you the story of a young woman, a wife, a mother-to-be, whose joy of motherhood was cut short by the hands of the very man who was supposed to protect her. Her name was Amaka, and this is the story of how love turned into pain and how pain turned into death. Amaka was a simple village girl. She was not too tall, not too short. Her skin glowed like fresh palm wine, and her smile could light up even the darkest room. She was raised by her widowed mother, Mami Foma, who taught her the values of patience, humility, and endurance. Amaka was loved by everyone, but most especially by one man, Chike, a handsome young man from a wealthy family. He was tall, strong, and always dressed well. At first, he treated Amaka like a queen. He would buy her gifts, kneel in front of her with flowers, and even sing for her under the moonlight. When Chike finally asked for her hand in marriage, Mami Foma agreed, though she had one warning for her daughter. My daughter, marriage is not always sweet. A man's true color shows after the wedding. But if he truly loves you, he will protect you. Always remember, your happiness matters. Amaka nodded and entered marriage with hope and joy. At first, everything was beautiful. The wedding was grand. The whole village came to dance and eat. Amaka's eyes shone with love. She believed her marriage would be like the fairy tale. But one evening, just 3 months into the marriage, everything changed. Amaka had prepared dinner, yam porridge, garnished with fresh vegetables. She placed it on the table with pride, waiting for Chike, her darling husband. Chike entered the house, his face hard and cold. What is this nonsense? He barked. Amaka smiled softly. It's yam porridge, my husband. I cooked it the way you like it. But Chike's eyes darkened. He flung the plates to the ground, splattering food everywhere. Did I tell you I want porridge? Before Amaka could answer, slap. His hand landed on her face. The world around her spun. Tears rushed down her eyes, and she held her cheek in shock. Never ever you cook what I didn't ask for again, Chike roared. That night, Amaka cried silently, hugging her pillow. She thought it was just anger, maybe stress. She forgave him. She told herself, it's just one slap. Maybe he didn't mean it. But my people, you know a slap today, if not stopped, will become a punch tomorrow. Months later, Amaka discovered she was pregnant. At first, fear filled her heart. She wondered, will Chike be happy or angry? One evening, she decided to share the news. My husband, she said softly, holding his hands, I have good news. I'm carrying your child. For a moment, Chike's eyes softened. He even hugged her. Amaka's heart leaped with joy, but it did not last. Soon, Chike's behavior grew worse. He would come home drunk, shouting and breaking things. He would accuse her of being lazy, of wanting to trap him with a child. One night, he returned home very late. Amaka, worried, asked where he has been. That was when Chike shouted, Don't question me, woman. Do you think because you were pregnant, you can control me? He pushed her so hard that she fell against the wall. Amaka cried in pain, holding her belly. Fear gripped her heart for the innocent child growing inside her. Amaka decided to tell her mother. She visited Mami Foma one morning, her face swollen, her steps slow. Mama, I am tired. My husband is not the man I married. He beats me, even now that I carry his child. Mami Foma wept bitterly. She begged her daughter to come back home. to leave Chike before it was too late. But Amaka shook her head. Mama, people will laugh at me. They will say I could not endure. They will call me a failure. Her mother held her hands, pleading, but Amaka was stubborn. She returned to her husband's house. My people, sometimes the fear of shame is more deadly than the anger we face. Not long after, Amaka discovered something that broke her heart completely. One evening, she followed Chike secretly. He entered a hotel in town. Amaka's heart beat fast, but she gathered courage and walked inside. And there she saw it, her husband, Chike, with another woman, laughing and drinking as if he had no wife waiting at home. Tears poured down Amaka's face. She confronted him right there. Chike, how could you do this to me? I am carrying your child. The other woman laughed, mocking her. Chike's face turned red with shame and anger. He dragged Amaka out of the hotel roughly and whispered with clenched teeth, if you ever embarrass me again, I will deal with you. That night, Chike beat her mercilessly, and yet Amaka stayed. Days turned into weeks. Amaka's pregnancy grew. The neighbors whispered. Some advised her to leave, but she endured. She prayed every night, asking God to touch her husband's heart. But instead of change, Chike's violence increased. He accused her of using the pregnancy to chain him down. One night, Amaka sat alone in her room, holding her belly. She whispered to her unborn child, my baby, please be strong. I don't know if your father will ever love us, but I will protect you with my life. Little did she know that promise would soon be tested. Days passed and Amaka became weaker. Her eyes no longer shone like before. Her laughter disappeared. Every time she heard Chike's footsteps, her heart would pump like a trapped bird. Sometimes, when Chike was away, Amaka would sit under the mango tree in their compound, caressing her round belly and talking to her unborn baby. My child, forgive me. Maybe I made a mistake marrying your father, but I will not give up. I will live, and you will see the light of day. The neighbors noticed her pain. Mama Nkechi, their elderly neighbor, once called her aside. Amaka, my daughter, leave this marriage before you lose your life. A man that raises his hand against his wife will not stop until he kills her. But Amaka shook her head sadly. Mama Nkechi, I cannot. What will people say? Where will I go? I am carrying his child. She swallowed her tears and returned to her suffering. One afternoon, Chike's mother, Mama Ezinne, came visiting. At first, Amaka felt relief, hoping she could talk to her mother-in-law about the abuse. She prepared food, greeted her warmly, and later, when they sat alone, Amaka opened her heart. Mama, your son has changed. He beats me, even now that I am pregnant. Please talk to him. But instead of support, Mama Ezinne's face hardened. So you are the one going around painting my son black. Amaka, listen well. A good wife endures. If he beats you, you must have done something to annoy him. A wise woman keeps quiet. If you leave, don't ever come back to his family. Amaka's eyes filled with tears. Instead of comfort, she received blame. When Chike returned that evening, his mother whispered things into his ear. The next day, Chike shouted at Amaka, so you are reporting me to my mother. You want to turn her against me. Another round of beating followed. One stormy night, it happened again. Amaka was in the kitchen, frying plantain. The smell filled the house. Suddenly, Chike stormed in, drunk and furious. Where is my food? He roared. I am almost done, my husband, she replied, trying to stay calm. But before she could serve him, he grabbed the hot frying pan and threw it aside, spilling oil on her arms. Useless woman, do you want to starve me? Amaka screamed in pain, tears streaming down her face. She begged him to stop, holding her swollen belly. But Chike punched her. Her scream pierced the night. Neighbors rushed, knocking on the door, begging Chike to calm down, but he shouted them away. That night, Amaka bled. She held her stomach, praying the baby would survive. The next morning, Amaka's mother came after hearing what happened. She wept at the sight of her daughter's bruised face and burnt arm. Amaka, my child, pack your things and follow me home now, before this man kills you. But once again, Amaka refused. Mama, I cannot. What about the baby? What about my marriage vows? What about shame? Mami Foma fell on her knees, crying and begging her daughter to choose life. But Amaka wiped her tears, kissed her mother's hand, and stayed back. Her mother walked away slowly, her heart heavy with sorrow. Just when Amaka thought things could not get worse, she discovered that Chike was still seeing the other woman, Sandra. One afternoon, Amaka caught Sandra boldly entering her home. Amaka, with her round belly, stood in the doorway. "What are you doing in my house?" he asked, her voice shaking. Sandra laughed mockingly. "Your house? My dear, this man belongs to me. You are just a tenant here." Amaka's blood boiled. For the first time, she shouted, "Leave my house now, before I forget myself." Sandra slapped her. Amaka staggered back, holding her belly. Chike entered at that moment, and instead of defending his wife, he sided with Sandra. "Amaka, don't you ever raise your voice at her again. She is worth more than you." Those words broke Amaka's heart into pieces. That night, Amaka cried herself to sleep. She had a dream. In the dream, she saw herself in a white gown, holding a baby. Suddenly, the baby slipped from her hands and fell into darkness. She tried to catch it, but a strong hand held her back. She woke up sweating, her heart beating fast. "God, please don't let this dream come true. Protect my baby." But sometimes dreams are warning. Soon, everyone in the community knew about Chike's violent ways. Some blamed Amaka for staying, others pitied her. One day at the market, two women whispered, "Have you heard that Amaka is still with Chike, even after all the beatings?" Some women love shame more than their lives. Amaka overheard them. Shame burned her heart, but she walked away quietly. As Amaka's pregnancy entered the 8th month, her body grew weaker. She struggled to walk, to cook, to clean, but still Chike demanded more. One evening, he returned from drinking with friends. "Where is my food?" he shouted. Amaka, tired and weak, said softly, "Please, my husband, give me a little time. I just finished sweeping." That answer triggered a storm. Chike pounded on her, kicking and slapping. Amaka screamed, "Please, my baby, my baby." The neighbors gathered outside, shouting and pleading for him to stop. But inside, the sound of blows, crashes, and Amaka's cries filled the air. Then suddenly, silence. The neighbors froze. What had happened inside? Then the door finally opened. Chike walked out, his shirt stained with blood, his eyes wild. He shouted at the neighbors, "This is my house. Nobody should interfere." Behind him, Amaka laid on the floor, motionless, blood flowing, one hand on her belly. And that, my people, was the night everything changed forever. The night was dark and the rain fell heavily. Inside the house, Amaka's body shook. She gasped for breath, and her lips whispering weak prayers. "God, my baby, save my baby." Her neighbors stood outside, afraid to enter. Chike had threatened them, and they knew he could be violent with everyone who tried. But Mama Nkechi could not stand it anymore. She pushed the door open and rushed inside. "Jesus! Amaka!" she screamed. The sight before her broke her heart. Amaka was lying in a pool of blood, her eyes half closed, her breath weak. "Help me, my baby," Amaka whispered, her voice faint. The neighbors carried her out quickly. Rain soaked her body, but they didn't care, rushed her to the local clinic. At the clinic, the nurses rushed her into the emergency room. Blood stained her wrappers. Her face was swollen with bruises. One of the nurses shook her head. Who did this to her? The neighbors looked at each other. Finally, Mama Nkechi spoke. Her husband. He has been beating her for months. The nurses sighed in anger. Inside, the doctor struggled to stop the bleeding. Amaka cried in pain, calling on her unborn child. "Doctor, please, save my baby. Don't let my baby die." The doctor tried his best, and her blood pressure was dropping. Her body was weak. At dawn, she fell into unconsciousness. Meanwhile, Chike sat at home, drinking palm wine as if nothing had happened. When the neighbors confronted him, he shouted, "She is my wife. If I discipline her, what is your business?" But deep inside, he was afraid. He wondered if she could survive. When he finally went to the clinic, the nurses refused to let him near her. "Leave that place. You are the reason she is lying there," one nurse said angrily. But Chike only laughed. "She will survive. That one is strong." When Mami Foma heard the news, she rushed to the clinic. Seeing her daughter lying weak in the hospital bed with tubes on her body, she broke down in tears. "Amaka, my daughter, didn't I warn you? Didn't I beg you to leave the monster? Why did you stay?" She held her daughter's hand, crying uncontrollably. For a moment, Amaka opened her eyes weakly. "Mama, forgive me. I wanted to save my marriage. I didn't want people to laugh at me." Mami Foma shook her head, tears pouring down her face. "My child, your life is more important than shame. Marriage is not a prison." Amaka closed her eyes again, tears rolling down her cheeks. Days passed. Amaka remained in the hospital, the baby inside her still kicking. The doctor said there was still hope if she rested and avoided stress. For the first time in the long while, Amaka smiled faintly. "Mama, maybe God will give me a second chance. When I leave here, I will not go back to him. I will raise my child in peace." Her mother nodded. "Yes, my child, this suffering will end." For a brief moment, hope filled the air. But Chike was not done. One evening, he stormed into the hospital, drunk as usual. "Amaka, come home with me now. Enough of this drama." The nurses blocked him. "Sir, leave this woman alone. She needs peace, not stress." But Chike pushed past them. He stood by Amaka's bed, his eyes blazing. "So this is your plan? To disgrace me in front of the whole village? To paint me as a monster?" Amaka's weak voice trembled. "Chike, please, leave me. I don't want you anymore." Those words cut through him like a knife, his face twisted with rage. He raised his hand to hit her again, right there in the hospital, but the nurses and security men dragged him out. The whole world echoed with Amaka's sobs. After that day, Amaka refused to see him again. She told her mother, "Mama, if I survive this, I will never go back. My child will never grow up in violence." Her mother smiled weakly, relieved, but fate had its own plan. As Amaka entered her 9th month of pregnancy, her condition grew worse. The doctor warned her mother, "Her body is too weak. The delivery will not be easy. We must prepare for anything." Mami Foma prayed day and night. She begged God to save both her daughter and her grandchild. But Chike, instead of remorse, went around boasting to his friends, "She will come back. Where else will she go? She is mine. Even if she dies, she is still mine." Those words spread around the village, making everyone shake their heads in anger. One rainy evening, Amaka suddenly felt sharp pain on her stomach. She screamed. holding her belly. Nurses rushed to her side. It's time. She is in labor. They wheeled her into the delivery room. Mami Fama fell on her knees, praying with tears streaming down her face. God, please save my child and her baby. Inside, Amaka cried out in pain. Sweat covered her face. Doctor, please save my baby. Don't let my baby die. The doctor urged her. Push, Amaka, push. Hours passed. Her cries echoed through the night. Then silence. The door finally opened. The doctor walked out slowly, his face heavy. Mami Fama rushed forward. Doctor, my child, how is my child? The doctor sighed deeply. She gave birth to a baby boy. But Mami Fama's heart stopped. But what? The doctor looked down. Her body was too weak. She could not survive. Mami Fama fell to the floor, wailing. Amaka, my daughter, why did you leave me like this? Why? The nurses carried a small baby boy, crying loudly, wrapped in a white cloth. The child was alive, but his mother was gone. The entire hospital ward wept. Even the nurses wiped their tears. When the news reached Chike, he rushed to the hospital. He barged in, demanding, "Where is my wife? Where is my child?" The doctor stared at him coldly. "Your wife is gone, but your son lives." Chike froze. His eyes widened. For the first time, fear entered his heart. Mami Fama stood up, her face full of fire. She pointed at him with trembling hands. "You killed her. You, Chike, you killed my daughter with your own hands." Chike shook his head, sweating. No, it was not me. She was weak." But the neighbors who had followed shouted at him, "Murderer, beast, you destroyed her life." Chike's world collapsed around him. The cries of the newborn baby pierced his ears like judgment. He fell to his knees, covering his face, but it was too late. The baby cried non-stop. His tiny voice echoed through the hospital. And as he was crying not only for hunger, but for the mother he would never know, Mami Fama carried him close to his chest, tears rolling down her cheeks. "My grandson, you came into this world through pain, but I will protect you. I will not let your father's evil touch you." The nurses all stood in silence. Some wept, others shook their heads. One of them whispered, if only she had left earlier, maybe she would still be alive. News of Amaka's death spread like wildfire. The whole village gathered in shock and anger. At the marketplace, women discussed it loudly. "Did you hear? Chike beat Amaka until she died giving birth. Ah, what kind of man kills the mother of his own child?" Men too shook their heads in disgust. "This one is not a man. He is a beast in human skin." For the first time, everyone agreed Chike must face the consequences. The day of Amaka's burial was heavy with sorrow. The church was filled with people dressed in black. Women wailed, men sat in silence, children clung in their mothers. Her body lay in a white coffin, her face calm as if she was only sleeping. But by her side, a small white cloth carried her baby's name, Ifeanyi, meaning nothing is impossible with God. Mami Fama cried uncontrollably. "My daughter, you wanted to endure, but endurance killed you. Why didn't you listen to me? Why?" The priest spoke with a heavy voice. "We buried today not only a daughter, but a lesson. Domestic violence is a silent killer. Marriage is not a license for murder. If you are in such pain, speak out. Run out before it's too late." Everyone nodded, their hearts heavy. Chike attended the burial, but nobody allowed her near the coffin. People spat at him, cursed him, called him a murderer. He stood at a distance, trembling, guilt eating him alive. When the coffin was lowered into the ground, Chike broke down. He fell on the sand, screaming, "Amaka, "Forgive me, please forgive me. I didn't mean it." But the crowd shouted at him, "Shut up, murderer. You killed her with your own hands." From that day, Chike's life was never the same. After the burial, strange things began to happen. At night, Chike could not sleep. Each time he closes his eyes, he saw Amaka's face. Sometimes she was smiling sadly. Sometimes she was crying. Sometimes she was holding her baby. "Why did you kill me, Chike? Why?" He would wake up screaming, sweating all over. He stopped eating. He stopped bathing. His friends abandoned him. The community shunned him completely. No one greeted him anymore. Nobody gave him food or water. Sandra, the other woman he had been seeing, also ran away. She feared that his curse would follow her too. Meanwhile, little Ifeanyi grew under the care of his grandmother, Mami Forma. Every time she looks at him, tears filled her eyes. He looked so much like Amaka, especially when he smiled. She whispered to him every night, "My grandson, you will not suffer like your mother. You will grow strong. You will be a testimony against wickedness." The villagers also supported her. They brought food, clothes, and gifts for the baby. Everyone agreed that this child was innocent and must not carry the sins of his father. Months passed, and Chike's condition grew worse. He lost his job. He sold his belongings to drink away his guilt. He became a shadow of himself, thin, dirty, and empty-eyed. One day, he staggered into the market, begging for food, but nobody pitied him. "Go and eat your feast, the same feast you used to kill your wife," one man shouted. Ashamed, Chike ran away. That night, in his empty house, he cried bitterly. "Why did I do it? Why did I kill the only woman who loved me? Why?" He looked at the rope hanging in his room. For a moment, he thought of ending it all, but fear held him back. One evening, Chike fell terribly sick. His body burned with fever. His eyes rolled back and his voice grew weak. Neighbors found him lying on the ground, muttering to himself, "Amaka, forgive me. Amaka, don't take me yet." They rushed him to the same clinic where Amaka had died. The doctor shook his head. "This man is dying. His body is shutting down. Nothing more can be done." Lying on the hospital bed, Chike suddenly screamed, "She's here. Amaka, she's here. She's coming for me." He fought the air, struggling, begging, but nobody saw anything. With his last breath, he cried out, "Forgive me, please, forgive me." And then silence. Chike was gone. The whole village gathered again. This time, not to mourn Chike, but to reflect. The priest stood and spoke. 2 lives lost because of violence. My people, let us learn from this. Marriage is not by force. If your partner raises a hand against you, run before you are buried. Silence kills. Speak out before it is too late. Everyone nodded. Mothers held their daughters close. Fathers promised to teach their sons never to raise a hand against women. Years later, little Ifeanyi grew strong and healthy. He never knew his mother, but he was told about her love, her kindness, and her patience. His grandmother always told him, "Your mother died because she loved too much, but you, my son, will live to break that curse. You will love with respect. You will protect, not destroy." And truly, he grew into a fine young man, respected and loved by everyone. And that, my people, is the story of Amaka, the woman who died at the hands of a man she loved. Her story teaches us that marriage is not meant to kill. Love should not bring tears, and no woman should ever stay silent in the face of violence, because sometimes silence is another name for the grave.